Well, regardless of how it's done, you can maybe say there's always some type of progress being made because we really are seeing some better choices being made by a lot of people. Nowadays, many are not going out to drink alcohol anymore. Alcohol use is down, and a lot of people are just not as dependent on it anymore. And what we're seeing is trips to the bar are also down a lot, and it feels like it isn't as common of a place for people to go. Now, to some degree, this is kind of sad, I guess, like in the social element of it all, but at the same time, when you look at alcohol and what it can do to people, this is kind of, to me, it's encouraging to see, I guess, people fading away from alcohol and trying to be dependent on going to the bar. And I think generally, too, this can also help with just the society we live in where everybody obviously drives. I mean, I would guess that if alcohol use is down, DUIs are maybe down, or, the criminal, really bad DUIs are down, maybe because people aren't as drunk. I don't know, but also, I have to feel like drunk driving incidents can maybe go down. So those are all great things that come from this. But it's also a sign of the times, and that part of it is kind of negative. You almost want to give enough credit to people for like breaking out of bad habits, but you do get the sense that that's just not the only thing going on, and that there is a lot that goes into it. And getting drinks, it's just too expensive nowadays. I think a lot of people are quitting because of that. I think one time I went with my girlfriend to get a couple of drinks or something recently. Well, I don't want to say recently, but this was like months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, but the tab still ended up being like some outrageous amount. Like, I think it was like over $20 or whatever for 2 drinks, and just, it's that kind of stuff that just totally adds up on you really quick. And so you're just left thinking, all right, did I really get my money's worth? Not really at all. And I think this factor, again, has as much to do with it as anything else, because people, they're just trying to cut back on stuff you don't need. And when you look at alcohol, it is absolutely not a necessity. It's one of those things that makes everything fun. You buy it, you have a good time, but you're usually out with friends in a social setting. You're often not drinking by yourself. And I think this is also why, you're seeing the expense of it, why wealthier people aren't necessarily probably dropping off drinking, but most other everyday people, when you're trying to cut back, they are definitely not following suit with drinking. Another big factor right off the bat, I'd have to guess, is that there's just a lack of people going out. They don't have as many friends. They don't have those social circles. And so you really need that to be able to go out to drink. You really need those friends, because drinking solo, it's often a sign of a bad time for people. It's often a sign of depression. And luckily, that's something that I haven't gotten into, but every story you ever hear of somebody drinking alone it's usually nothing good is really going on. So the lack of that social aspect of it, especially everybody going through COVID and losing a lot of those years, if you're younger and more likely to be somebody honestly out drinking at a bar, it's like, this is a big part of the reason. And another thing that even comes to mind too is there's less people going to college now. They're just a little bit less, and I'm sure that'll continue to decline based off the expense of it, unless there's also going to be a major bounce back. And secondly, just with the age of the internet and all these different types of things, you could argue the value of college education certainly gone down, and you see this all in the job market, and you can go on and on about that. But less people going to college, less drinking. I mean, because that's where a lot of it happens. You go to a fraternity party, it's game day or something. That's when you're going to be drinking, is when you're having a good time. In college, not necessarily out of it. But again, you just don't see the third spaces people used to have, or they're just not as big as they once were, because it's hard for people to socialize now, probably because they've maxed it out online. And last couple of points that are great to see. One of them is great to see. The other one, I think there's just less drinking now because there's other vices, and they're just more prominent. I mean, there's always been some of these, but marijuana is huge now. It's very legal, accessible. So this is really a good way to get out of alcohol. Some people, they just like to get high and go with marijuana, and you know what? It's hard to say it's any worse than alcohol, but you can obviously debate it. It's just another option, just saying. You also have phones, which are a dopamine hit in and of itself, and you have everything on your phone. Now, it's not necessarily hand in hand, apples to apples with drinking in terms of chasing that same feeling, but it is something that's giving you a constant rush, and so that replaces probably some of the systems that are chasing that with alcohol. Plus, guys, there's plenty of pornography, you know what I'm talking about, out there. You know, that's a whole nother distraction as well. Gives you a major vice people didn't have back in the day. And there's also vaping. And, you know, that's just, again, another form of smoking. But similar to that drinking realm, I think that maybe maybe takes away some of that same dopamine chase from alcohol, and because you can vape, and maybe that's giving you again that rush that you would have otherwise had with alcohol. And so there's a lot less need to cope with it when you already have alternative sources to the bottle. But lastly, I think, the greatest part probably of it all is there's just a little more health aspect nowadays. I think people, you're a little bit more health conscious. Everybody and their mother, it feels like, is trying to lose weight and stuff. So that's a part of it too. It's too many calories to really drink a lot of the times. You're trying to cut back. You're trying to just live a little bit of a healthier lifestyle. See if you can eat one less bag of chips, take one less drink, do one less dinner outside of your house per week. Everybody's trying to do a little bit of that. And so there's a health aspect to this. You just don't want to end up in a bad situation later on. Certainly a lot of people grew up, if your parents struggle with alcohol, you see the effects of that later on, and it's never good. So that's a huge part of this too. But let me know where you guys are on this. I mean, are you glad about this stat? Are you more upset about the other factors that go into it, like the decline of social life? Is that more concerning to you? Let me know. I honestly think it's a good development, all things considered, but at the same time, you just wish it didn't come with probably the other reasons for it. But let me know what you guys think, and also stay tuned for the next video. That's going to be out soon.